Have you ever found yourself just completely trapped in your own head? Endlessly replaying some conversation or maybe second guessing a decision you made hours ago?
Oh, absolutely. Or imagining every single worst-case scenario before anything's even happened.
Exactly. It's more than just frustrating, isn't it?
Mm.
It's utterly exhausting. And it feels like it holds you back from, well, from really living.
It really does, that constant mental loop, that analysis that never leads anywhere. That's the heart of overthinking.
Right.
It's not productive thought. It's an unhelpful cycle that often just ramps up anxiety and leads to what we call analysis paralysis. You just feel stuck, unable to move forward.
Yeah, it's like if your brain feels like a computer with, I don't know, 50 tabs open at once.
Yeah.
Everything just slows down to a crawl.
A never-ending mental traffic jam, precisely.
And here's something counterintuitive, I think. For a lot of us, overthinking isn't just a bad habit. It's almost like a sneaky strategy our brain uses to avoid taking action.
That's a great point. It can be the ultimate procrastination tool,
Hmm.
kind of disguised as being thoughtful or productive.
We often mistake it for deep thinking
Right.
or careful planning.
Exactly. But productive deep thinking actually helps you understand things, connect ideas, find real solutions. Overthinking, it just keeps you trapped in a loop.
Going down that rabbit hole.
Right, going down a rabbit hole of complexity, but never actually getting a clear answer or a path forward. It's like the brain saying, okay, let's just think a little more, but that thinking never actually finishes.
It just becomes like a mental washing machine going around and around and around.
Precisely.
So why? Why do we fall into this trap? What are some of those maybe deeper, almost unconscious reasons our brains decide to just go into overdrive like this?
Well, there are a few key drivers. A really big one is the fear of failure.
Okay.
We get so terrified of making the wrong move, maybe messing up, that we just endlessly run through every single possibility instead of just acting. Then there's perfectionism, that obsession with every tiny detail, hoping somehow we can preempt any mistakes.
Oh, yeah, I know that one.
And sometimes it's the echo of past experiences. If something went wrong before, our brain tries desperately to protect us from a repeat, but it often ends up just pulling us backward.
Right.
And maybe the most subtle one, a perceived lack of control. When life feels unpredictable, overthinking can give us this illusion that we're actively doing something, that we're being productive.
Even if we're just spinning our wheels mentally.
Exactly, just spinning our wheels.
But here's what's really powerful, and honestly, it's the good news here. Overthinking isn't some fixed personality trait you're just stuck with forever.
No, absolutely not.
It's a mental pattern. And the great thing about patterns is they can change. You aren't broken if you overthink.
Not at all.
You just need the right tools, maybe a new approach. So our mission for this deep dive is to uncover exactly how you can break free, how you can clear your mind, and really reclaim that control.
It's about learning to respond to your thoughts, not just automatically react to them.
Creating that crucial bit of space, right, between the thought and the action, for clarity, confidence, and calm.
Precisely. Clarity, confidence, and calm. That's the goal.
Okay, so now that we've got a better handle on what overthinking actually is, let's dig into something maybe even more subtle, the hidden triggers.
Right.
These are those quiet things, often working way below our conscious radar, that kind of nudges into that overthinking habit without us even realizing it sometimes.
Yeah, we all have triggers that can send our minds spiraling. Some are really obvious, like a big deadline coming up.
Sure.
But others are incredibly subtle. They're the things that kickstart that mental analysis, often without us consciously noticing until we, really reflect on it later. Understanding these subtle cues is really the first step to disarming them.
Okay, so let's shine a light on some of these specific hidden triggers that often catch us out. First one, uncertainty.
Uncertainty is a huge one, a colossal trigger, really. When we're faced with the unknown, our minds instinctively try to predict every possible outcome.
The what ifs.
Exactly. An endless barrage of what-if questions. What if it goes wrong? What if I fail? What if they don't like me? Our brains just crave certainty, they crave safety, so they overanalyze everything, even things completely outside our control.
That's exhausting just thinking about it.
It is, and the critical realization here is that life is inherently uncertain. Trying to control every single variable isn't just tiring, it's literally impossible.
So the better approach is.
Learning to live with the uncertainty rather than constantly fighting against it, that's where the freedom is.
That rings so true. And tied into that, I can really see how low self-confidence would fuel this.
Yeah.
It's that constant second-guessing yourself, isn't it?
Precisely. People with lower self-confidence often just don't trust their own judgment. You might hear phrases like, I just don't trust myself to make the right choice. And this self-doubt, it fuels that constant replaying of situations, questioning every little action. Did I say the wrong thing back there? Should I have done that differently? Am I really good enough for this?
And the overthinking becomes like a shield.
Ironically, yes, it becomes a kind of shield, this futile attempt to avoid making any mistakes. But the reality is, it often just leads to avoiding life itself, avoiding opportunities.
Which then leads us pretty naturally to the fear of judgment. That's a huge one for so many people, worrying about what others think.
Oh, it's a remarkably powerful trigger. That intense concern about how other people perceive us, wanting to appear competent or smart or accepted.
Yeah.
This fear directly fuels those mental replays. You find yourself meticulously re-examining conversations, dissecting how you might have come across.
Did I sound okay? Was that joke weird?
Exactly. Did I sound nervous in that meeting?
Ah.
It creates this immense internal pressure, makes you constantly self-monitor instead of just being present in the moment. It's incredibly draining, keeps your brain on high alert all the time.
And then, of course, the classic one that so many of us wrestle with, perfectionism. That relentless desire for everything to be absolutely just right.
Perfectionism is one of the most potent triggers, definitely. It's that deep-seated belief that anything less than flawless is basically unacceptable. And this pursuit of just right standards, it just spirals into obsessing over tiny details, perpetually delaying action. You might find yourself endlessly editing and re-editing something.
Or planning and doubting.
Planning and doubting, exactly. Often to the point where the thing you intended to do never even gets started.
The thoughts win.
In that battle, yeah, thoughts often win and progress just stalls completely. The irony is, aiming for perfection so often becomes the biggest barrier to making any progress at all.
And finally, we can't ignore the echoes of the past, can we? Things like trauma or significant failures.
Right. Painful memories are incredibly powerful triggers. If you had a really negative experience, your mind instinctively tries to prevent it from happening again.
Makes sense.
But instead of helping you move forward with lessons learned, this process can often pull you backward into this loop of analysis. A really difficult breakup might lead to overthinking every little thing in a new relationship.
Or a failure at work making you second-guess every future decision.
Exactly. Those past experiences can become these mental red flags, just igniting an endless cycle of analysis, often without any real resolution or healthy way forward.
Okay, so if these triggers are often hidden or subtle, how do we even begin to identify our own? What's a practical first step someone can take?
The crucial first step is simply to observe. Observe your own mind, but without judgment. Just notice the specific situations where you tend to feel anxious or stuck.
Pay attention.
Pay attention. What thoughts tend to repeat themselves? When do you feel that familiar internal tension, that mental traffic jam starting up? A really effective exercise is to actually write these observations down.
Like a journal.
Yeah, just note the trigger, what happened just before, then the specific thought that popped up, the feeling it generated in you. And what was the immediate result? Did you act? Did you freeze?
Okay.
This kind of mindful observation builds awareness. And awareness is always, always the foundational step to changing any ingrained pattern.
It's like becoming a detective of your own inner world, isn't it? Investigating the pattern.
Exactly. A curious, non-judgmental detective.
All right, we've looked at what overthinking is. We've identified some of those sneaky hidden triggers. But here's a really key distinction we need to make crystal clear. Thinking itself is an incredibly powerful tool, right?
Absolutely essential.
It helps us solve problems, make decisions, plan for the future. So when exactly does that helpful thinking cross the line and become that stress-inducing, clarity-destroying overthinking?
That's the crucial boundary we need to learn to recognize. Thinking is vital for navigating life, but crossing over into overthinking causes real mental distress. Understanding this difference is key so you can learn to guide your thoughts effectively instead of just being swept away by them.
Okay, let's really nail down these critical differences. First off, maybe consider the purpose. Healthy thinking solves problems, but overthinking just stalls.
Precisely. Productive thinking asks useful questions with clear goals, like, okay, what time should I leave to catch my flight? Or which skill will genuinely help my career? It always points towards finding solutions and taking action.
Right.
Overthinking, on the other hand, just adds layers of fear, doubt, negative imagination.
Yeah.
It doesn't really answer questions, it just generates an endless stream of new ones.
It's equal to the problem.
It just circles the problem without ever finding a solution. Like, but what if the flight's delayed and I miss my connection? Or what if I choose the wrong course and waste years of my life? It completely stalls any forward momentum.
Okay. And second, maybe the basis of the thoughts. Productive thinking uses logic, whereas overthinking is often driven by raw emotion.
Yeah, that's a big one. When you're thinking clearly, you're fundamentally relying on logic, facts, reason to inform your choices. It's that calm assessment that says, okay, I've prepared thoroughly for this presentation, I'll do my best.
Makes sense.
Overthinking, however, often reacts from this emotional core driven by fear or guilt or anxiety. It sounds more like, what if I forget everything? What if I mess up and embarrass myself in front of everyone?
Right.
Now, emotions are undeniably important, of course, but they become detrimental when they totally hijack your thoughts, making your mind just noisy and unclear.
That logic versus emotion distinction is so critical. Okay, so third, healthy thinking leads to decisions, but overthinking just leads to hesitation.
Yes, exactly. The whole point of healthy thinking is to help us decide, to give us clear direction. Overthinking, conversely, causes this profound hesitation, a pause that just stretches longer and longer because you're overwhelmed by the fear of making the wrong move.
Like wanting to share an idea in a meeting.
Perfect example. A thinking mind might say, okay, I'll voice it. If I make a mistake, hey, I'll learn from it. An overthinking mind says, but what if my idea is stupid? What if they laugh? Maybe I should just wait.
And that hesitation becomes a habit.
It quickly morphs into a habit, and when it's frequent, it results in paralysis, that feeling of being mentally frozen, totally unable to move forward.
And if that wasn't enough, healthy thinking brings clarity, while overthinking creates that persistent mental cloudiness. That's such a vivid image.
It really is. When we engage in genuine thinking, we gain clarity. Our understanding deepens. It feels kind of light, focused, confident.
Yeah.
But overthinking inevitably creates this dense mental fog. Your mind feels unclear, like you're trying to navigate through thick, disorienting mist. You might feel like you're getting closer to an answer, but really you're just getting more tired and more lost.
That foggy feeling is a real telltale sign.
Absolutely. That pervasive mental fogginess is a hallmark sign you're caught in an overthinking loop.
And finally, maybe a really critical difference. Productive thinking accepts risk, but overthinking tries to eliminate it completely.
Right. Because no decision, no action is ever 100% risk-free. Healthy thinking helps you assess realistic risks and then move forward anyway. It acknowledges, yeah, there's a chance I might make a mistake, but that's part of learning, part of growth.
Okay.
Overthinking, conversely, tries to completely remove all risk, which is just fundamentally impossible. It sounds like I won't do it until I'm 100% certain nothing can possibly go wrong.
Which means you never do it.
Exactly. It isn't genuine caution. It's fear wearing a very convincing disguise of caution, and it prevents any meaningful action.
So maybe the next time your mind starts racing, you can pause and ask yourself some questions like, am I actually finding solutions here or just generating more questions?
Yeah.
Am I thinking with clear logic or am I reacting from emotion? Am I moving forward or just feeling more stuck?
Yeah.
Is this helping me decide or just making me worry more?
Those self-reflection questions are incredibly powerful. It's not about stopping thought entirely, that's impossible. It's about learning to consciously guide your thoughts in a direction that truly serves you.
Moving towards clarity and peace.
Exactly. Moving consistently towards greater clarity and profound inner peace.
Now, overthinking isn't just this internal monologue happening quietly inside your head, is it? It casts this wide, often unseen ripple effect across your entire daily life.
That's a vital point. It subtly infiltrates everything: your behavior, your relationships, your core decisions, even your sleep. Many people don't even realize their brain is actively working overtime on the wrong things.
They just feel the effects, like fatigue or anxiety.
Exactly. They just experience the fatigue, the anxiety, maybe a persistent lack of motivation, without ever really connecting those feelings back to the incessant mental activity that's fueled by the overthinking. It silently, yet powerfully, affects nearly every part of our daily existence.
Okay, let's try and pinpoint some specific areas where this impact becomes really clear. First, just making decisions becomes an agonizing struggle.
Oh, absolutely. Even seemingly simple choices like what to wear today or what to order for dinner can feel disproportionately heavy and stressful.
You make endless lists.
Endless pros and cons lists that never lead to action. Or constantly asking everyone else for advice or changing your mind again and again. It creates this perpetual loop of debilitating doubt.
You start fearing the wrong choice more than no choice at all.
That's exactly it. You fear making the wrong choice more than the consequences of making no choice. Imagine you're at a restaurant, right? Staring at the menu, 10 options. You spend 20 minutes agonizing, what if I don't like this one? Maybe that other one's better.
By the time you order, the joy is gone.
Completely gone. Any joy in the meal is just sucked out by the process.
Oh, that scenario is painfully relatable. And then there's the constant replaying of conversations in your mind.
Overthinkers have a strong tendency to reanalyze every single word they said and every word said to them long after an interaction is over.
Worrying how you came across.
Intensely worrying about how they were understood or if they might have accidentally offended someone or sounded foolish. This habit makes social interactions feel inherently unsafe. You're not just speaking, you're simultaneously judging yourself in real time.
Which makes it hard to just relax and connect.
Incredibly difficult to relax and enjoy genuine human connection. That common phrase, I keep playing that conversation over and over in my head, perfectly captures that exhausting mental loop.
And what about sleep? That's a huge one. When your mind just refuses to switch off at night.
Sleep is profoundly and consistently disturbed for many overthinkers. You lie there in bed, physically exhausted, but your brain just will not quiet down.
Replaying the day.
Replaying the day's events, catastrophizing about tomorrow's tasks, maybe even having imaginary arguments or planning elaborate scenarios in your head. Your body is desperate for rest, but your mind is wide awake, just racing.
And that creates a vicious cycle, right? Bad sleep, more anxiety.
Exactly. Poor sleep inevitably leads to even greater anxiety and mental fogginess the next day, which then makes the sleep quality even worse. It feeds itself.
Is there a practical tip for that?
One really practical tip is to actually write down your thoughts in a notebook before you get into bed. Sometimes just the act of getting them out of your head and onto paper can allow your mind to finally settle down a bit.
Worth trying. It also means you're often missing the present moment, aren't you? You're physically there, but mentally you're miles away.
Precisely. Overthinking constantly pulls your attention away from where you actually are, keeping you perpetually lost in the labyrinth of your thoughts.
Like walking outside but thinking about last week's meeting.
Exactly. Or eating a delicious meal but worrying about an exam tomorrow. Or maybe spending time with friends but mentally rehearsing what you're going to say next instead of truly listening and engaging.
Life is happening now.
Life unfolds in the present moment, but overthinking traps you firmly in the past or the future, and you tragically miss what's right in front of you.
And ultimately, all this overthinking can lead to delaying or even completely missing out on genuine opportunities. It's like fear wearing a mask of being careful or responsible.
It absolutely is. Overthinking often cleverly disguises itself as being cautious or diligently prepared. But yeah, at its core, it's usually fundamental fear.
You wait, you plan.
You wait, you meticulously plan, you delay, you prepare so extensively that you just let valuable chances slip away entirely. You tell yourself things like, oh, I'm not quite ready yet, or I genuinely need more time to think this through, or maybe later when I feel more confident.
But perfect timing never comes.
The truth is, perfect timing doesn't exist. By the time you finally feel ready, that opportunity, whether it's applying for a dream job or launching that creative project or speaking up about something important, it might have already vanished. And that leads to deep regret later on.
Okay, so just to quickly summarize some of those daily life signs of overthinking. You might find yourself taking way too long on decisions, endlessly replaying conversations, having disturbed sleep, feeling constantly distracted, and consistently delaying important actions.
Yeah, those are key signs. But remember, these are not inherent personality flaws. They are deeply ingrained habits.
And habits can change.
And the truly liberating news is that habits can be changed. Becoming aware of these patterns is that crucial first step to separating yourself from them. It allows you to think just enough to make good choices and grow without letting your thoughts become a suffocating prison.
Okay, we've talked a lot about what overthinking is, its triggers, its impact. Now, for the really empowering part we've all been waiting for, something you can immediately do about it. These are practical techniques to help calm your mind right in the moment.
Yeah, the what now part.
Exactly. And the goal here isn't to magically erase your thoughts. That's not realistic. But to learn how to guide them, how to consciously create that vital mental space we talked about earlier.
That's a key distinction. These are remarkably simple techniques, but they can be profoundly powerful. And they're realistic. You don't need to be a meditation master to use them effectively, but they can be incredibly helpful in quickly shifting your mental state when things feel overwhelming.
Okay, so let's dive into 5 of these practical techniques you can start using today. First one, name your thoughts.
Okay, this technique is all about building that conscious awareness muscle. When you notice a thought that's starting to spiral or causing you distress, just simply label it internally.
How do you mean?
So instead of letting a worry completely consume you, you pause and you internally state, this is a worry. Or, okay, that's a memory popping up. Or maybe, this is a judgment.
You detach from it slightly.
Exactly. By naming the thought, you create this vital distance between you and the thought itself. You're no longer inside the thought. You're observing it from a slightly detached perspective. And that small, intentional space, it gives you immense power back.
So if you think, I always mess up,
you can reframe it internally as, there's that self-critical thought again. Just noticing it like that changes everything.
that's a really powerful shift in perspective.
Yeah.
Okay, number 2, and this might sound a bit counterintuitive, but apparently it's remarkably effective. Set a worry timer.
It might seem strange, I know, but it genuinely works for many people. You designate a specific, limited time slot each day, say 10 or 15 minutes, where you explicitly allow yourself to worry freely.
You schedule your worry.
You schedule it, grab a notebook, write down absolutely everything that's on your mind, hold nothing back. Then, crucially, when the timer goes off, you stop. You close the notebook,
Yeah.
and you firmly tell your brain, okay, worry session complete for today.
It contains it.
It creates a clear boundary for your mind. Instead of worries just scattering randomly throughout your entire day, you put them into this dedicated container. Your brain gets its scheduled attention for its worries, but you remain in control of when and how much it takes over.
That's brilliant, giving it a designated slot. Okay, third, something to really bring you back to the present moment when your mind's racing. The 5-4-3-2-1 grounding method.
This is an excellent technique for when your thoughts are spinning really fast, maybe feeling out of control. It intentionally shifts your attention away from your internal chatter and onto your external senses.
How does it work again?
You consciously name 5 specific things you can actually see around you right now, then 4 things you can physically touch, then 3 distinct things you can hear, then 2 things you can smell, and finally 1 thing you can taste, even if it's just the taste in your mouth.
It's you out of your head.
Completely. This technique effectively signals to your brain, hey, we are safe, we are here, we are now. It brings you firmly back to the present moment and signals that whatever perceived threat your mind was worrying about is not immediate or overwhelming. It's incredibly calming and takes just seconds.
I can absolutely see how that would pull you out of your head instantly.
Okay.
For number 4, this one is about directly confronting the fear.
Yeah.
Ask, what's the worst that could realistically happen?
Yeah, because overthinking so often conjures up these incredibly elaborate, often disproportionate worst-case scenarios, right?
Definitely.
But when you actively look at those fears head on, when you directly confront them, they often immediately start to lose their power. Ask yourself, okay, what am I truly deeply afraid of here? What's the absolute worst realistic outcome? Not the fantasy disaster, but the realistic one. And if that did happen, what tangible steps would I take to handle it?
And usually it's not as bad as you think.
Most of the time, you'll realize that even the perceived worst case isn't nearly as catastrophic as your mind painted it. Or importantly, you'll realize that you are far more resilient and capable of handling it than you initially thought.
Like public speaking fear.
Exactly. If you're terrified of public speaking, you might realize the realistic worst is maybe stumbling over a few words, feeling embarrassed for a moment. But you would survive, you'd learn from it, you'd move on. That kind of realistic thinking is infinitely more helpful than uncontrolled, fear-driven imagination.
Makes sense. And finally, a gentle yet really effective approach. Practice mental redirecting.
Right. When your brain starts to spiral into that overthinking pattern, our instinct is often to fight it directly, to wrestle with the thought.
Push it away.
Push it away. But fighting often just makes the thought stronger, gives it more energy, cements its presence. So instead, you gently, almost imperceptibly, redirect your focus to something else entirely.
Like what?
It could be going for a short walk, maybe engaging in a simple physical task like washing the dishes, or even just quietly repeating a calming, anchoring phrase to yourself like, right now, in this moment, I'm okay.
So it's not about ignoring it forever.
No, the core goal isn't to distract yourself indefinitely or avoid difficult thoughts forever. It's more about showing your brain a new, healthier path away from that repetitive mental loop. Think of overthinking like being stuck in a dark tunnel. Redirecting helps you find the nearest exit.
Okay, so just to quickly recap those daily tools for immediate calm. Name your thoughts, set that worry timer, use the 5-4-3-2-1 grounding method, ask what's the realistic worst that could happen, and practice that gentle mental redirection.
Exactly. And look, these techniques aren't magic bullets, right? They won't instantly erase overthinking overnight, but they are profoundly powerful tools. And with consistent, compassionate practice, they will steadily help you regain control one moment at a time.
You'll start to notice a difference.
You will undeniably notice your mind becoming quieter, your actions feeling easier, and your inherent confidence growing stronger with each conscious step you take.
So we've explored what overthinking is, the triggers, the impact, even those immediate relief techniques. But here's the really powerful truth for lasting, profound change. Calming your mind once or twice? Well, it simply isn't enough, is it?
No, not for long-term change.
To truly break free, you need to deliberately build a new habit of clear thinking, actively replacing that automatic, draining behavior of overthinking.
That's precisely it. Overthinking isn't just a fleeting moment. For many people, it's a deeply ingrained, repeated behavioral pattern. It's like brushing your teeth or instinctively checking your phone. It can become this unconscious, automatic response.
So you have to consciously replace it.
Right. To genuinely stop overthinking for good, you must consciously replace that old, unhelpful habit with a stronger, more beneficial one. The habit of thinking clearly, with purpose, and with profound peace. It's about intentionally creating this fundamental shift in your mental operating system.
Okay, let's delve into exactly how we can make that lasting shift. How do we build this robust new habit of clear thinking, step by strategic step? First, start with small, decisive actions.
Right. Overthinking thrives on complexity and indecision. Clear thinking, conversely, begins by cultivating simplicity and decisiveness. So start by actively practicing small, daily decisions.
Like what?
Choose what you're going to eat in under a minute. Pick out your clothes without changing your mind 5 times. Set a quick time limit for a minor task and just stick to it, no wavering.
They seem small, but they matter.
These actions might seem trivial, but they build invaluable decision-making confidence. When your brain consistently experiences that these quick, low-stakes decisions don't lead to catastrophe, it gradually begins to trust itself again. Give yourself firm time limits. Okay, I'll decide this in the next 30 seconds. It powerfully trains your mind to act without all the unnecessary drama or internal debate.
That makes perfect sense. Building those micro muscles of decision. Okay, second, create a thinking routine.
Yeah, if your thoughts are chaotic and all over the place, your actions will inevitably follow suit, right? That's precisely why mental routines are so profoundly helpful. They bring essential structure and direction to your thoughts.
What kind of routine?
Try implementing a really simple daily structure. Maybe in the morning, consciously ask yourself, what is my core intention for today? Midday, maybe just pause for a moment and ask, am I truly focused on what matters most right now? And then in the evening, perhaps reflect and ask, what did I genuinely learn or accomplish today?
Writing it down helps.
Writing these reflections down can immensely amplify their impact, yes. This practice actively builds what you might call directed thinking, purposeful, intentional thought, not just random, draining worrying. It keeps you firmly connected to your goals instead of just drifting off into an overthinking spiral.
I love that idea of directed thinking. Okay, number 3, and this is a big one. Surround yourself with clear thinkers. Your environment undeniably matters, doesn't it?
It profoundly matters. Our thoughts, whether we realize it or not, often mirror those of the people around us. If you consistently spend time with people who habitually worry, doubt, or complain,
You start doing it too.
your mind will, often without your awareness, begin to adopt those same mental patterns. Conversely, intentionally spending time with individuals who think clearly, who act confidently, who embody a proactive mindset that will powerfully help you mirror them.
So be mindful of your influences.
Exactly. This doesn't mean cutting off everyone who experiences anxiety, of course not, but it means being highly mindful of your core influences. Actively seek out positive influences, maybe through insightful books, well-produced podcasts like this one, thoughtful online content, or even finding inspiring mentors. Consciously choose who you follow, both online and offline. They shape your thinking and your reality more than you probably realize.
That's such a powerful point. We are so much more influenced than we often acknowledge.
Okay.
Okay, next. Reward action, not perfection. This feels like a profound game changer for anyone caught in that overthinking cycle.
It really is. Overthinking almost always stems from that deeply ingrained desire for everything to be absolutely just right, perfect, but truly clear thinkers Consistently prioritize progress over elusive perfection.
So celebrate the small wins.
Exactly. Begin to actively celebrate action, even the smallest, seemingly insignificant actions. Did you speak up in a group, even if your voice trembled a bit? Excellent. Celebrate that. Did you make a choice quickly, even if it wasn't the absolute ideal one? Superb. Did you finally finish a task, even if it wasn't your magnum opus? That is truly enough.
Your brain learns from rewards.
Your brain learns directly from rewards. When it consistently feels rewarded for acting without falling into the overthinking trap, it will powerfully repeat that behavior. You're building a self-reinforcing positive mental loop.
Love that. And finally, number 5, and this is probably the most internal, yet maybe the most impactful. Train your self-talk.
Yeah, your mind is perpetually talking to you, right? But pause and truly listen. What is it consistently saying? Overthinkers often have a very harsh, very negative inner dialogue. You're just not ready. That's a terrible idea. What if it all goes wrong?
The inner critic.
The inner critic, exactly. To successfully build this new habit of clear thinking, you have to diligently train that inner voice to be more like a compassionate coach, not a relentless critic.
How do you do that?
Consciously practice using phrases like, okay, let's just try this and see what happens. Or, I've handled challenging situations like this before. Or simply, okay, it's not perfect, but it's undeniable progress.
Be kinder to yourself.
This kind of positive, encouraging language consistently teaches your mind that it's fundamentally okay to try, it's okay to learn, and it's absolutely okay to move forward, even imperfectly. You don't have to eliminate all negative thoughts, but consistent, kind, and useful self-talk will slowly but surely become your new mental default setting.
It's really like learning a new language, isn't it?
Right.
Nobody's just born a clear thinker. It's a skill.
It's absolutely a skill. It requires consistent practice and intentional effort to make it feel second nature.
But it can be done.
Absolutely. The consistent practice of these 5 powerful habits making small, swift decisions, establishing that daily thinking routine, intentionally surrounding yourself with clear influences, rewarding genuine action over elusive perfection, and diligently training positive self-talk will slowly but surely diminish overthinking's grip. It is undeniably a journey, yes, but it steadfastly leads to a life filled with far more peace, clarity, and unwavering control.
Well, if you've been with us on this deep dive today, you've already taken an incredibly powerful step. You've committed to taking a deep, honest look into your own mind. We've explored the intricate nature of overthinking, where it comes from, how it affects pretty much every facet of your life, and most importantly, some concrete ways you can start to effectively manage it.
And here's the profound truth to really take with you, the absolute cornerstone of mental freedom. You are not your thoughts.
That sounds simple, but it's huge.
It may sound deceptively simple, but it holds the key to liberating your mind. Your thoughts are merely a part of your experience. They are not and never will be your ultimate identity.
They're like clouds passing by.
Exactly. They simply pass through your mind like fleeting clouds in the sky. Some light, some heavy, some helpful, some maybe painful, but none of them, not a single one, truly defines who you are at your core.
Overthinking happens when we believe every single thought.
Fundamentally, yes, overthinking happens when we start believing every single thought that pops into our head, giving it absolute, unchallenged power. But remember, a thought is just a sentence in your head. You have the inherent power to observe it, to question its validity, and ultimately you can choose whether or not to engage with it, whether to let it go.
So if that familiar thought pops up like, I'm not good enough, instead of just accepting it and feeling defeated,
You can consciously step back and say, okay, that's just a thought passing through. It's not an undeniable fact about who I am.
and that separation creates space.
That intentional separation creates precious mental space, that crucial room where you can truly respond with intention instead of just reacting on autopilot. And in that newfound space, you get to choose. You can choose to be calm, to remain focused, to feel truly free.
You're the observer.
Remember, you are the discerning observer of your thoughts. You are not controlled by them. You have the profound power to choose which ones get your attention and which ones you allow to gracefully depart. That, at its very essence, is what clear thinking is all about.
So, just a quick review of our illuminating journey today. We learned overthinking is that draining, unhelpful loop, fundamentally different from true, productive, deep thinking. We bravely uncovered some of those subtle hidden triggers like uncertainty and perfectionism. We pinpointed the clear, defining line between healthy thinking and that noisy, unproductive mental chatter. We then saw, in pretty stark detail, how overthinking impacts absolutely everything, from your precious sleep to your crucial daily decisions. We explored powerful, immediate calming techniques like naming your thoughts and using that empowering 5-4-3-2-1 method. And finally, we firmly laid the foundation for building new, sustainable habits of clear thinking, approaching it with purpose, and, importantly, profound self-kindness.
And remember, this isn't a one-time fix. It's really a daily, empowering practice. But like learning any new, valuable skill, every small, consistent effort you make really compounds over time. Your brain is not broken, it's simply busy, often just working overtime on the wrong things.
Overthinking doesn't mean you're weak.
Not at all. It doesn't mean you're weak or inherently failing. It often means you care deeply, you are thoughtful, but now you are learning to be thoughtful with clear direction.
So the very next time your mind starts racing, maybe just pause, take a slow, deep breath, and remind yourself with gentle conviction. Okay, I've been here before, I know what this feeling is, and crucially, I know what I can do about it now.
You don't have to fight your mind. You simply have to listen to its signals, learn from its patterns, and then gently but firmly lead it towards a calmer, clearer path. Remember this profound truth. You are not your thoughts. You are the thinker, and you are far more powerful than you believe.
Until our next deep dive, keep exploring that incredible inner world of yours.